Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. No. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Today on CityCast Houston, Mayor Whitmire has made a move that could possibly be one of the most important of his administration. Plus, why is one political leader saying that Governor Abbott is attempting to create havoc with a special election? And we've seen passengers get kicked off planes, but the pilot? Houston Landing's diverse communities reporter Danya Pérez joins me to break down those stories and more. It's Tuesday, August 6th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Danya, welcome into CityCast Houston. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, before we get to the news and start talking about some really important stuff happening in the city of Houston, I need to ask you a super important food question, okay? You grew up in El Paso. You worked in the Valley, the Rio Grande Valley. You now are back here in Houston. Who has the best tacos out of all these places?
Oh, God, that is the $1,000,000 question here in Texas, especially. Different reasons. I love the tacos in the Valley. I also worked in San Antonio for 2 years. So I think San Antonio and the Valley have really similar, tacos. My heart just is in El Paso for the burrito option.
Oh, yes.
I don't know. That is something I don't find here in the other side of Texas. So, I mean, I'll give props to the Valley and to San Antonio for their tacos, but
okay.
Yeah.
Hey, that's fine. You know what? We can step up our taco game, even though it's pretty good. I mean, here in Houston.
It is pretty good. I honestly have not suffered here in Houston for tacos. I'm a foodie too, so I love trying new spots. So Houston's great.
Well, I love hearing that. So if we're in the Valley, we got to hit up the tacos and say that Danya sent us. So that
hit up the tacos, hit up the lunches.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to our biggest story. I'm going to start things off because Mayor John Whitmire officially introduced J. Noe Diaz as his new police chief for HPD, where he's going to manage about 6,500 officers as opposed to when he managed less than 100 officers as a chief at the Katy Police Department, which was his last stop. Now, Diaz steps in as the police chief as the department is recovering from suspended cases due to the lack of personnel code scandal, where more than 250,000 cases were suspended, including 4,000 in the sex crimes division. Now, this is going to be Mayor Whitmire's most important move because of how much Mayor Whitmire focused on lowering crime during his run for mayor, and also, of course, what I just mentioned with HPD as they recover and rebuild trust with the community after that big scandal. And by the way, that story came from your colleague, Eileen Grench at the Houston Landing. So your thoughts, what did you think about this move when it was announced?
I mean, that was very interesting for me to read over the weekend or Friday when it published, actually. I can see why people have a lot of questions, right? Like, how do you go from running a smaller department to something like, Houston's police department? And the questions are, I think, fair. We'll see what this means to all the issues that the department has been having for a while, the suspending cases and everything. There's plenty of questions. There's plenty of reasons for, I think, the public to be a little bit nervous about this move, but it also makes sense. I mean, it's a new mayor. He's making different promises. He wants to address different issues. So it makes sense that there were going to be plenty of changes at this caliber as he started.
One thing, Diaz at the press conference was so focused on bringing more officers and bringing in younger officers as well to HPD. He said, quote, "If you have a 19 or 20-year-old child in your home that needs a job, please contact the Houston Police Department. We need you." So right out the gate, he is making moves to bring in younger police officers and hopefully they grow up with the department, right? And they're here for a long time. And that's going to be one thing to watch out for, because I'm always hearing that, hey, there's not enough officers, right, across many police departments in our area. So if HPD can start filling in more of these vacancies, as we've heard before, then that would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah. And that also brings questions of training, right? I mean, there is obviously this push by many police departments to actually hire more staff, hire more officers, start training them young. But also, we hear about all this officer involved shootings. And some of the times, like, we're wondering what type of training and how prepared they were to actually deal with those cases. So I think yes, they need all the help they can get, but also we'll see where the training actually goes and how rushed they are to get police officers out in the streets, patrolling the streets, and also just responding to calls.
So, new HPD police chief, new fire chief as well for Mayor Whitmire. He is really making sure his people and his hires are in place as he starts his term and takes over the city of Houston. It hasn't even been a full year yet, and all these changes are being made. So, we'll keep our eye on that one. And by the way, acting chief of police Larry Satterwhite, he is now going to head up the city's Homeland Security Office. So if you're wondering what happened to Larry Satterwhite, that's what is up with him. Mayor Whitmire announced that. So there you go. HPD big moves. Now let's get to your big story, Danya. What do you got?
Yeah, so today I wanted to highlight the story of Mr. Felix Fraga. Last week we actually published two stories, one in English and another one in Spanish, about Fraga's life. So he passed away on July 22nd at the age of 94. And he was known for being a community advocate. I mean, he was a Houstonian who devoted his entire life to addressing the needs of his community, and that's Houston's Mexican American community. And his goal, for what I learned, was to open as many doors for residents as possible, especially the youth here in the city. He liked to think beyond the need and focus instead on what having one less hurdle could mean for that person or that family. So he started his life of service on the East End. That's where he grew up, and he later became known across the city for knocking on doors and literally asking people, "¿Qué necesita?" or, "What do you need?" So he was introduced to this life of social service as a child by receiving services at the Rust Settlement House and then later at Baker Ripley. He actually started working at Baker Ripley as a teenager, and he later became the organization's director. He also later ran for public office, serving at Houston ISD's board, and then became our city council member at some point. So I just wanted to highlight this story because it is one of those stories where, based on the topic, as a reporter, my first instinct was to brace for sadness, for, tough interviews with family members, with his friends. But to be honest, I was immediately surprised by the fact that all of the stories that I was hearing about Mr. Fraga's life and service were just very heartwarming. Everybody spoke about his smile and his ability to make you feel like he knew you for years and like you were the only person that mattered in that moment where he was talking to you. So it was very touching to hear all these stories, and it became a whole different type of conversation with his family members. Mr. Fraga unfortunately died after years of battling Alzheimer's, but I spoke with his son, Bolivar Fraga, who actually said that his father spoke of service, of community programs, and of addressing need until the very end. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I was reading your story, and the one thing I took away is that you can make a difference in your community as one person. We often forget that, right? Because the world seems so massive. There's so many problems. But learning about Mr. Fraga, and I actually know somebody in his family, Michelle Fraga, and she has talked to me about all the work that Felix had done. And it still continues to do through his legacy. And it's so important that we remember that. Like, one person can make a difference. It might not be a difference on the national level or international level, but in your community, you can have an impact. And I think it's so important to highlight that, because people often forget that or feel overwhelmed that they can't make an impact, but you can.
I agree. Yeah. And I think, I mean, what I learned from talking to his family members was also that it seemed like he just wanted to pay forward what he had received as a child and what he saw that his community received. I mean, he literally was able to finish school and continue to college because of some of the help that he got through community services. So I think he saw that door open for himself. And I think by addressing need, he wanted to pay it forward and open that door for somebody else. So I think that's very moving to think of service in that way.
Yeah, and I think that's something we can all practice, right? Like, pay it forward, have that gratitude, know what you have in your life, and see if you can provide that to other people as well. So, if you want to read the entire story, by the way, I've linked it in our show notes. It's a very well written story, and I'm glad you wrote both in English and Spanish. I know that's been a big part of your reporting, and also the Houston Landing's focus on making sure that the accessibility is there for everyone in our community.
Agree. Yes, access is huge for us. And I think, yeah, I mean, those might not be immediately the most read stories, but I think it's, again, we're talking service, right? We're making sure that people have access to information and also that people see themselves in news, which is something that doesn't always happen.
Want to teach your kids financial literacy, but not sure where to start? Greenlight can help. With Greenlight, parents can keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens use a card of their own to build money confidence. As a parent, you can send instant money transfers, set up chores, automate allowance, and more. It's a convenient way to run your household, customized to your family's needs, and the easy way to raise financially smart kids. Get started with Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Whoa. Landing an account this big will totally change my landscaping business. It's gonna mean hiring more guys and more equipment and new trucks for the new guys to drive the new equipment in. I don't know if I'm ready.
You can do this, and Ford Pro FinSimple can help. Our experts are ready to make growing pains less painful for your business with flexible financing solutions that meet the needs of your business today when you need them. Get started at fordpro.com/financing.
All right, Danya, it is time for some lightning round. We do this every Tuesday. I've got 3 stories for you. The first one is going to be a little confusing, so stick with me. I will answer your questions because I know everyone has questions regarding this one. So, Governor Abbott has called for the special election for the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee's 18th congressional district seat to be held the same day as the general election on November 5th. Now, the winner of that seat, meaning the special election seat, will serve the remaining 2 months before the winner of the general election takes over in January, which again, voters will also pick on November 5th. So anybody can run for the special election except for the Democratic nominee, who will be selected on August 13th by the 88 Democratic precinct chairs in Jackson Lee's district. And also the Republican candidate, Lana Santosi, can't be on the ballot for the special election either. Okay, are you confused yet? Because I am. What questions do you have so far right now as I read that story?
I am honestly wondering if people, because the way I understand, other people can still sign up to also be on the ballot, correct?
For the special election, anybody can sign up by August 22nd. But the general election, you cannot, because again, the Democratic precinct chairs will pick that one by August 13th. So are you going to sign up? I mean, it's already confusing. We might as well sign up and confuse people even more.
That's exactly what I'm wondering. I am not interested in signing up, I promise. But I mean, I am wondering how confusing this would become for people who are either looking for different candidates on the ballot or people who are looking to sign up, whatever it is. I mean, it is very confusing dates. And I'm also wondering why this option out of, I don't know how many options we had, to be honest.
You know, it's funny you bring that up because Mike Doyle, who is the chair of the Harris County Democrats, called the special election, quote, an attempt to confuse and create havoc in voting in November, end quote. By the way, Governor Abbott was not required to set a special election to fill the seat for just 2 months. Mike Doyle said doing so means that voters will see 2 ballots for the same office. And he said, quote, "This is gamesmanship, nothing more, nothing less," end quote. So they being the Democrats, feel like Governor Abbott is doing this on purpose to create a lot of confusion. And I'm confused, right? So that's why I wanted to bring the story up and kind of talk through it. So on your ballot, if you are in the 18th congressional district, you're going to see 2 options. You're going to see the special election, which will have a whole list of names. I'm not sure what that list is going to look like in terms of how many people will be on there, right? So we'll learn about that as we get closer. And then you're going to see the general election, because remember, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee was up for re-election, and that is where names like Houston's former mayor, Sylvester Turner, might be on there, State Representative Jarvis Johnson. You have Amanda Edwards, who ran off against Sheila Jackson Lee in the Democratic primary. So you might see one of those names, but those names will be dwindled down and picked on August 13th. For the general election for the next 2 years.
That is a lot to keep in mind. But it's also, I mean, I'm also wondering, there's a lot of organizations who are trying to prepare voters, right? Nonpartisan organizations who are just like literally preparing voters to get out there and vote. So I'm wondering, how does this impact their day-to-day work, right? I mean, this just feels like another step in what they're trying to do. So it'll be interesting to see how it kind of shakes up their plans.
So the question that keeps coming up is, why can't anybody who is running for the special election be also the general election nominee? So I don't know the legal reason, but basically you can't be on both the special election and the general election ballot. So for example, let's say on August 13th, the precinct chairs pick former Mayor Turner as the general election Democratic nominee. He can't be on the special election one as well. I think it's just to prevent confusion. But again, I don't know the legal side of this. We'll research it a little bit more and we'll learn more about this. If it is confusing, I feel like it is meant to be confusing, right? Like, this is so crazy.
There's a lot there for people to, understand before they head to cast their ballots. So it will be something that needs thorough explaining.
All right, Danya, the second story I have for you, we are the energy capital of the world, right? Like, de facto. And now the second largest U.S. oil company is moving here. Chevron announced they'll be calling Houston their new home for their headquarters, moving from California. CEO Mike Wirth said the move is a business one, saying, quote, "We believe California has a number of policies that raise costs, that hurt consumers, that discourage investment, and ultimately we think that's not good for the economy in California and for the consumers." So Chevron already has a research and development campus here in the Cypress area, but that is still being built out. Their headquarters, however, will be in downtown Houston, and there's going to be more jobs here, so that's pretty cool. Another headquarters moving to the Houston area. That's good for the economy. That's good for our reputation. And hey, shout out to Chevron. They're like many Californians who are now moving to Texas because they just don't want to be in California anymore.
Yes, I think that continues that trend for sure. And we'll see what that actually means for the city once they're here established.
Hey, also one other note on this, 81% of area residents believe the transition to alternative energy is necessary for Houston's economic future. And that was from the Rice Kinder annual survey. So, hey, Chevron headquarters moving to the Houston area, they're not your form of alternative energy, but nonetheless, they are here and they're going to be in downtown Houston. So curious to see how the residents feel about this.
Making everyone happy on vacation isn't easy. But you know what is? Going to Aruba. All you have to do is walk out your door to find pristine pools, relaxing white sand beaches, and an island teeming with outdoor activities that'll put a smile on any face. You won't just feel great, you'll all feel great, filled with a calmer, more peaceful vibe that radiates Aruba's warmth. And the best part is, it never fades. That's the Aruba effect. Plan your family trip at Aruba.com.
Okay, my third story is one about the real estate market. Now, are you willing to room with 7 other people in a house to save money? That's what some Houstonians are doing through this company called Pad Split, which is helping some people find affordable housing outside of the apartment complex. So for under $700, you get your own room, your water, electricity, and internet bills are paid, but you have to share common spaces in the house like the kitchen, bathroom, and laundry room. Your thoughts? Are you doing this?
Not doing this if I can help it. I think that goes back to what we were talking about at other companies joining the city. Like a cost of living in Houston is pretty high, moving from other cities. I don't think that would be very appealing for me. Maybe for younger, professionals who are just getting their feet wet here in the city and want to try it out.
Yes.
I can see that being appealing,
Yeah, when you were younger, you can make it work. Like in college, I shared an apartment with 3 other folks, right? And I had like a common area. When I first started working in Houston, making nothing, okay, in the media space, I had 6 other roommates, my family. All right. I had to live at home and it was just like Pad Split, right? Like I had my room and I had to share all my common areas with my family. But yeah, now like at this age, no. If I don't have my own bathroom, then I'm out. Like I need my space, okay?
Yeah, and I give you that. I think there's a lot of good lessons to be learned out of that stage of your life. I mean, I did the same through fellowships in Washington,
Mhm.
D.C. That was the norm. That's all you could afford. But, lessons were learned. And one of those lessons was I need to work harder so I can afford my own place.
Amen. Yeah, by the way, if you want to learn more about this company, I've linked the story in our show notes, along with all of these stories for today's episode. All right, it's Tuesday. That means it is time to do Only in H-Town. Stories that are so unique to us. They can be fun, they can be wacky, they can talk about the spirit of H-Town, whatever it is time to have our Only in H-Town. Danya, you're the guest. You go first.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know if it's wise for me to be the first because I am, apparently staying on topic from the story I highlighted today. I do think it's very Houston, though. So I wanted to highlight the funeral services for Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, which culminated on Thursday, I believe. And it was a true celebration of life. I didn't get to be there, but my colleague, Houston Landing politics reporter Paul Cobbler, was there and he wrote about the services and he sent us video from the services and it just looked amazing. I mean, it was attended by local and national elected officials and, including Vice President and Democratic nominee Kamala Harris, the Clintons, Bill and Hillary Clinton, among others. And there were performances by the Houston Gospel Community Choir and Stevie Wonder. And
Mhm.
I'm telling you, I was in awe by what I saw. From the photo to the video to honestly, obviously the writing, it just seemed to be very touching. And I would argue very Houston to celebrate the life of somebody who served the community in such way.
Yeah, what a grand way to celebrate the life of somebody who was fighting for the community for 30 years almost, right? And representing the 18th congressional district. Rest in peace, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. It was amazing to see that celebration. I'm glad you brought it up. And yeah, Stevie Wonder there for your celebration of life. That's huge.
Yes, that's huge.
That's when you know you were really important.
Absolutely, yes, and true to that. I mean, descansa en paz, rest in peace. It just looked gorgeous, and yeah. Again, I mean, I started the week with a story about this type of celebration of life of somebody and what they meant for the community, and it was really touching to also read that coverage to end the week and to kind of culminate this services for Sheila Jackson Lee.
Okay, my Only in H-Town, we're gonna do a complete 180, okay? And
Yes.
the only reason I'm bringing up this Only in H-Town story is to clear up our city's great name. Now, everybody on social media was talking about a Frontier Airlines pilot being arrested at Bush Airport, and there's video of this. You can watch it again in our show notes. Now, when he was arrested, the flights were canceled because there were no other crews available. The pilot, 45-year-old Seymour Walker, was apprehended for an outstanding warrant linked to an allegation of assault and family violence. And everybody immediately started making jokes about this being so Houston. Now, the only problem is the warrant was filed by the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport Department of Public Safety, and Walker was taken to Dallas. So let's chalk this up as a Dallas problem, not a Houston story, okay? Don't be putting this on us. It wasn't a Houstonian that was apprehended.
Yeah, I think your instinct was right with this one. I think Houston deserves its name to be cleared from this one. He just happened to be caught here, people. And also, I think, we all have nightmare, stories from flights recent or past. So, I mean, one more delay, I guess, cancellation. I don't know if that could be just pinned to Houston.
That is the wildest cancellation I've heard of, where the pilot is being walked out and apprehended. So there is that. Like, it did happen in Bush Airport. Okay. So I guess only in H-Town can we start arresting people who are wanted in Dallas. So I guess we did a good thing here. So yeah, shout out to H-Town. Okay.
Shout out to H-Town. I'm with you on that one.
Danya, thank you so much. That was a lot of fun. Have a great week.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great week too.
That was Houston Landing's Diverse Communities reporter, Danya Pérez. All of the stories from today are linked in our show notes. Hey, want to help out the show? Rate and review the show wherever you listen and share this episode with 3 friends as well. And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Houston, with the link in our show notes. That will do it for today. I'm Raheel Ramzanali. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. That was somebody from Dallas, so make fun of Dallas for this one.